In simple words, we want to set the trend rather than a trend forward. The main focus that Gecko of C1 Fund is to be able to provide a different product and service compared to other MicroStrategy Treasury kind of a company. I think as a bunch of experienced entrepreneur, we need to be smart to identify early opportunity on the market, but also we need to be versatile and flexible in terms of competing with the market.
Michael Zhao studied finance and engineering at the University of Florida and Shanghai Jiao Tong University. He built his career in finance, and then he went on to found Klickl, MENA region's first all-in-one crypto super app. He later launched MyGolf Dubai, the region's biggest indoor golf and social club. More recently, he's taken center stage as vice chairman of C1 Fund, which raised approximately $60 million in an IPO to scale institutional access to digital assets.
What kind of advice would you give the next generation looking to build a career in the global market, crypto or AI tech domain?
We need to think big and start small. That's very, very important because you can have all the great ideas. If you don't put into the work, you don't execute, you can't get there.
Hello and welcome to Build It Up, where AI meets crypto, technology meets humanity, and East meets West. I'm Bill Chen. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation. Today's guest is Michael Zhao, a serial entrepreneur bridging traditional finance and Web3. He's the founder and CEO of Klickl, a UAE-based open finance platform building the bridge between digital assets and traditional banking. Now, Michael is leading efforts in the Middle East and Africa to create a global stablecoin ecosystem and bring the next billion users into Web3. Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure. Pleasure is always good, right? I can feel the UAE vibe over the over the studio.
Well, thank you. Let's kick off. You are an entrepreneur who actually grew along with a very traditional background, right? And you started your career even in the earlier stage as a central bank regulator. So how do you make the pivot? Could you share a little bit about your journey?
Well, I guess whatever we do, right? We end up with the right industry at the end. That's all it matters. So I think by background, I started my career as a derivatives trader, right? Trading the liquid products like Forex and emerging market, work for UBS. And then I was actually relocating from the US office to Singapore that kind of witnessed the credit crunch. And after that, actually, I had the opportunity to join the largest real money manager, which is SAFE, the investment management arm for the central banks of China. I was there kind of understand rather than a risk-taking perspective, but from a regulator, from a sovereign manager, it allowed me to understand stability, liquidity, which is all the policy making are cared about. So right after that experience, I go back to private sector, managing trading and asset management business until back in 2015, right? I started investing early stage crypto project. And ever since then, the rest is history. I'm very excited for the past almost 10 years where we see the market has grown so much. And leading up to last week where we actually list the first closed-end funds on the public market.
Yeah, well, congrats on the IPO of your fund. And I understand this is the first digital asset focused closed-end fund, right? And could you educate us a little bit? What's the difference between this IPO idea compared to the very typical digital asset treasury listed company thesis right now?
I don't know if I can say I educate the market because the market is always right. I think before we jump into the closed-end funds topic, right? I want to kind of bring us back to how the market have growth for the past 5 years. I think when we started in the early days where everyone is actually pushing, not understanding the risk, kind of leveraging on luck. And then after COVID, right, there's actually a major focus on talking about risk, liquidity, being regulated. And this is actually the biggest market change where for the past 3 to 4 years, global regulators or state level decision makers are thinking about coming up with proper rules and regulations. And this is where give the rise to the C1 fund. We actually did the first digital assets back 4 years ago, back in 2021. And that was the original idea of C1. But the SPAC market kind of also crashed right after last bull run. and then we kind of pivot over to finding the best digital asset company by acquiring the secondary market shares.
If I can pause here, so your original idea is set up the SPAC, right, back to 2021. And I guess the SPAC, the thesis would be also you want to kind of merge with another digital asset company. Is this understanding correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But then the market crash.
Yeah. Back then, the idea is to find the Coinbase of the emerging market. SPAC market was very, very hot. We raised 230 million. We listed SPAC on NASDAQ. But I think back then the regulation or the entire macro picture was not ready. So the U.S. authority is still very anti-crypto. So we didn't end up like this back a particular target. But through that journey, we talked to more than over 100 regulated digital asset business where we understand who is good, who is not so good. And then through the conversation with all those potential targets, we have access to a lot of amazing secondary opportunities. That's where we started thinking about there's actually a misconnect where traditionally the secondary opportunity is because the investors or the founders need liquidity. So the venture capital will have access to those opportunities where the public market doesn't have. So it's actually a quite unique product where we connect the public access to the private digital assets companies, the stock.
You connect the public liquidity to the private digital asset companies' shares, which is still illiquid now, right? So basically, you connect the liquidity to the illiquid shares of those crypto unicorn company.
Correct. Then everyone, average people, average investors can buy the same fund like they buy a stock on exchange. So it's actually it's a very unique way to connecting the supply and demand.
Okay, gotcha. So basically, you list the whole fund to the public market instead of the GP, right? It's different from if we buy the shares of the Blackstone, because Blackstone, that is the shares of their management company.
Correct. So essentially, we actually list the funds through IPO. And then during the IPO process, we actually raised on the public market. And then after the IPO, there will be no redemptions like traditional closed-end funds. So people can buy and sell the unit shares of particular Seven fund on the public market. And then the management company of Seven funds will actually use the proceeds to find those top 30 digital asset company and then buy the secondary shares.
And could you introduce a little bit about how big is the fund right now, and what is the exit duration, and how you're gonna deploy the capital, into what kind of niche sectors of the crypto?
That's a very good question. In fact, from the entire private digital asset universe, right, we're actually only looking at the top 30, which we actually define a top 30 digital asset company and focusing on the infrastructure side. So we're not gonna, and then the investment focus will be venture-backed, late stage, pre-IPO. So it's gonna be a very mature business. For example, the leading crypto exchange, the leading wallet and custody business, the leading liquidity provision company. We're actually looking for the best of the best. So that kind of limit the downside risk. And also, there's multiple different ways for exit, right? Giving a lot of those mature business are preparing for an imminent IPO. So traditional IPO will be a major exit opportunity. But also those opportunity, M&A is another exit opportunity for our portfolio companies.
And could you share a little bit about how big is the fund size right now, and how many portfolios you're gonna have in the end of the day?
Sure. We actually start off the fund with 60 million, 60 million, because I think whatever you do, you need to be the first one, right? So I start off with 60 million. We actually have a concentration risk. We're not going to invest more than 25% of our fund into a single company. So the ticket size is normally around 3 to 5, not more than 10 million. which is actually very, very social amount for those unicorn digital asset company.
Amazing. And if in the middle of the bull market, you got more tractions, a lot of investors rush to Michael's C1 fund and want to subscribe, how are you going to accommodate them? Are they going to push the NAV to a premium, or you will open, new sort of shares to these new investors to help you to increase your AUM from maybe 60 million to 600 million? How are they going to do that?
I mean, the beauty of this product is actually a publicly traded closed-end fund, works in the same fashion as a single stock, right? So at the end of the day, there's going to be a disconnect between the actual price and the NAV, which is actually a supply demand thing. I think we have a similar vehicle focusing on private tech. It's called Destiny XYZ. It's a similar structure. It's listed on NASDAQ, and it's been actually listed 1 year ahead of us, focusing on high tech. And then for Destiny, on average, actually the stock price is trading 3 times over the net, with the peak where the stock is trading around 10 times over the net, right? So that's actually a proven market example where there's always enough demand for this type of a vehicle. So we are looking quite positive on the price action after C1 in the coming weeks or months.
Gotcha. So basically, in the foreseeable future, for this C1 fund, you will not issue the new shares of the fund, but leave to the market for the NAV premium trading in future.
That's actually the first part, right? I'm just saying supply demand will actually naturally drive the price higher. And at the same time, we have the option to issue new shares with rights issuance.
Okay.
Right. In fact, there are already institutional grade crypto investors and funds actually reaching out to us saying that, think about this, right? For a lot of the crypto native investors, they might have the access to the portfolio company, but C1 actually offered the portfolio company a different edge compared to just giving them the money, right? A lot of those crypto company, they have the profitability to be a listed company, but accounting, governance, they're still growing, right? So being part of the C1 portfolio, use as a proxy to be listed on the most efficient public market in the States is a huge credibility boost. So naturally, those the potential target actually have this need to be part of C1 funds. So that's the one thing. The second part is a lot of those TradFi investors who are growing digital asset appetite, right, want to tag on C1 vehicle, and then along the way to kind of learn together, as well as a co-investment opportunity. So given the limits of the size of the fund, right, we might come across a top 30 digital company with the larger size of investment where we can't absorb ourselves. So there are opportunities for other investment funds to participate in the same investment. So I think there are multiple different opportunities.
Well, as a veteran from the Wall Street, along the way, when you and the partner pivot from the SPAC into this closed-end fund, do you also consider the digital asset treasury vehicle as one of the options? I guess, you and your partner must have done a lot of a discussion, right? Like why, in the end, you go to this direction instead of the most popular speculative DAT strategy?
In simple words, we want to set the trend rather than a trend follower. But in fact, for C1, we can invest up to 20% of our purchase in Bitcoins and similar factions. So we actually have some of that mandate. But I think the main focus that Gecko of C1 Fund is to be able to provide a different product and service compared to other MicroStrategy treasury kind of a company, right? I think 3, 4, 5 years ago, when you talk about a MicroStrategy type of Bitcoin treasury company, it's very novel, it's very unique. But now I think probably more than 150 listed companies are thinking about same strategy. I think this area is going to get very, very crowded, right? It's hard to provide long-term value. Having C1 as a different unique vehicle is also a clear sign of the market is actually maturing, right? You will have multiple different vehicles allow people to express their different view. We were thinking about treasury company. In fact, right, besides the treasury company, right after the SPAC, we're thinking about spot ETF until BlackRock start doing the same thing, right? Because I think as a bunch of experienced entrepreneur, we need to be smart to identify early opportunity on the market, but also we need to be versatile and flexible in terms of the competing with the market. Where I think treasury company very straightforward, but it's very easy to be to replicate. Where C1 to list the closed-end fund on a public market is not just because you have the money, right? You also need to pass the SEC, right? It's a very, very onerous process where, in fact, it's a product not only can be sold to institutional investor, but also open for a retail investor. So SEC, but our C1 team together with our legal counsel, our partners spend a lot of time with the SEC's the deal teams, right, to go through all the legal and compliance and accounting to make sure the retail investors well protected, right? All the associated risks is clearly spelled out. So I think that give us at least within that vertical to be the first one, and then from there we'll grow this awareness and be more connected to the market. That's why right after the NYSE listing, actually I flew back to Asia. I'm meeting a lot of a potential fund and target.
Regarding the exit from investing in the private market of the secondary share, how do you see in general, what's the exit duration, and until when you are planning to begin to distribute the fund to your investors?
That's one of the questions most investors ask, right? In fact, the team is working day in, day out, trying to work out deals and to put in asset. I think within the first 3 months, we'll be starting out adding top digital asset companies into portfolio. And then every time when we add in the C1 portfolio, you will see a price action on our market, right? There will be a market impact. And then from month 3 to month 6 is where we keep on complete the entire portfolio construction, right? Optimizing the entire underlying target. And then starting from nice mine is where we start to see exit opportunity, where we manage our positioning. So I think overall it's going to be a very, very liquid product on the market. And then and also the reason why we focus on the top 30 digital asset companies, that we feel like we're going through this paradigm shift where crypto company will work more like a fintech company. And then the fintech company, everyone competing on user traffic. So as regulations and rules come into places and more institutional investors to jump into this vertical, whomever have access to traffic will be the winner in the long run. So the top 30 digital asset companies will always outperform during bull and bear market. So there's actually a clear focus on putting the best asset within the digital asset space.
Let's pivot the gear a little bit, talk about the Klickl. So you're also the founder of Klickl. So could you introduce us a little bit about Klickl's business and the mission?
Yeah, absolutely, right. I think my role and responsibility for C1 is still the vice chair, where we have an amazing team to manage the day-to-day. But my own focus is actually more on Klickl. Klickl is actually we call this a Ripple killer, right? Ripple is a household name within crypto space, and it's a layer 1 protocol focusing on payment, solving the cross-border payment issues. It's been around for 10 years. There are more and more similar payment companies coming into the marketplace, but till now, those businesses still focus and constrained within banks and financial institutions. Retail average users have no utilities, right, supporting Ripple. So this is actually Klickll's vision. I try to be a retail-led, community-driven, DeFi native, open banking platform. And then the unique side of the Klickl is a business built locally in UAE, but in a fully compliant and regulated fashion. Not only we serve a regional market, but actually we're trying to expand globally. So this is actually a real beauty of Klickl. We spent 5 years to scale the business, and it come to a stage where we are ready to officially launch it on the global space.
On top of that, I also observed that you launched a Klickl token. So could you talk about, what would be the relationship between the main business and the token, and how would be the utility look like?
Absolutely. In fact, the Klickl token is actually launched via our Cayman Foundation. Oftentimes, I think there are two segments. One is actually the fintech side of the business. Another part is actually the crypto native side of the business. The crypto native people talk about foundations, use cases, but a lack of a real product to support that. And then the fintech type of the business is that people talk about Web3, where they focus on building a real product. I think it's very rare to see a company or ecosystem that connect both the real business and the product as well as foundation. I think the real use case of a Klickl token will be the underlying utility token that power all those activities for users within the broader Klickl ecosystem. Similarly, it could work as the BNB, how they power the Binance system, or the native token of crypto.com that connect the reward system with their card. So I think the logic behind KLK token is we're not the first one to come up with utility use cases for KLK token. So which give us the latecomer advantage.
You mentioned the BNB, and I think, BNB, basically the top one utility is to help the user to trade with discount and also, staking with yield on Binance, which fitting into the main business of Binance as an exchange. And what will be the top one use case of the Klickl in future? You mentioned it's going to be a Ripple killer, right? Do you think it's going to be remittance or, digital bank? Like, how do you see the top one killer use case of Klickl, and how, the Klickl token is going to enable this use case in the meantime?
Thank you. I think that's also another USP for what we're trying to achieve here, right? I think the early stage of the crypto competition is that it's a function-based business. You could be a wallet. I'm an exchange. He's a payment company. But now the market is moving over to everyone's doing something similar, right? And it's not just the Web3 space. In fact, the fintech companies, the banks, right, the non-bank financial institutions, everyone is trying to actually build something similar. I think the fine line between TradFi and Web3 is getting blurred, right? So the way how we structure our business internally within Klickl is a user-based. We actually have a retail and consumer-facing apps called Klickl X, and a merchants and corporate focused app called Klickl One. So it doesn't matter if you want to use the payment functionality or the trading functionality or the custody functionality. If you are a business, you go right. If you are a retail consumer, you go left. And then within there, we serve all the product and service only with one goal, to make sure the traffic is sticky, so that later on through operation, we're actually looking for a monetization opportunity. So it could be, in fact, we actually we have a trading module embedded within a Klickl app that work as a traditional Web3 crypto exchange. But also we are very, very strong on the on-ramp, off-ramp payout function. We also have a crypto card utility, just like Revolut. So it's really come down to the user traffic will be routing over to Klickl X, maybe through trading, or through the card, or through the payment functions. But whatever function it is, right, we want to make sure that the traffic is sticky and then they can actually transfer within the ecosystem. For example, you could be a Klickl X user, but you can also be connected to Klickl One. There's value transfer through different business vertical, and we create utility via the Klickl token.
You're gonna cover both the merchants and also retail, and the use case have a broader coverage from the remittance to wealth management, etc. So it's gonna be a one-stop solution digital bank to retail and also to merchants.
Yeah, and then to that end, right, we're working very closely with our regional and global counterparties, either is a forward-thinking digital bank or a payment service provider or a liquidity providers globally, right? Because all of those partners give us the end capability where we serve our end users better. So in one short, right, you can think about it as Revolut plus Robinhood in a more crypto native way.
I have a question regarding the Robinhood and the Revolut. I found that this season it's become a hybrid competition. The players from the Web2, Robinhood, etc., they're getting to the crypto, but also crypto players are getting to the tokenized stock. How do you see the competition evolvement of the industry in next 24 months?
In fact, we're actually are very happy and will welcome the mass adoption, right? It used to be only the 1% of crypto people are crazy about Bitcoin going higher, going lower. But now people's attention focus on what is the real use case. And then a clear sign the regulation is there to support. And then TradFi major players are coming over to the market. So I think for the next 24 months will be very, very exciting, right? We're pretty much gonna sight the same for the next 5 years, especially within the TradFi and a Web3 open banking platform. Clear winners will gain tractions, and then tier 2, tier 3 will disappear. So this really come down to you need to have the right strategy, have financial resources, capable team, and a working product for you to secure market shares. And this is exactly what we're doing here at Klickl, day in, day out to drive the product.
Yeah, along with your main business, I understand you also have a side project doing the golf in UAE, right? In the MENA region. So could you talk about this idea and how do you fit in this one into your main crypto initiative?
It seems like we're doing everything, but in fact, I think I play golf myself. I'm not very good. But I've been always thinking golf should be your new second language. For example, we live in UAE. There are more than 200 people come from more than 150 different nationalities, right? Everyone speaks English, right? We communicate. But golf to serve the same way, right? As your new second language is actually a very, very easy tool and a way to connect with people that share the same vision, right? They might not come from TradFi business or Web3 business, right? But they need to be an interesting person. So we actually launched the MyGolf concept 5 years ago when we first moved to UAE. Not knowing the local market, doesn't have the support, but with a can-do spirit, we set up the first concept at Dragon Mart 2. It's so far is still the largest indoor golf club in the Middle East. 20,000 square feet. We allow people to play golf simulator at the same time enjoy networking events. In fact, last week we opened the MyGolf Macau branch. It's the first indoor golf community within Macau. And then the long-term vision is actually try to build similar MyGolf branch, and then connect all those different branch globally. And it's actually really, we're seeing synergies within crypto as well. We launched the first Web3 Open, which is actually the people who play golf within the Web3 community, where we get together within MyGolf, we play some golf, and then we share synergies and connections for crypto. So I think we work hard, but we also play hard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, golf as a second language, shall be the catalyst of any business, including crypto.
That's why I said once we have this open mindset, then we should be able to connect a lot of business together.
My last question would be, what kind of advice would you give the next generation looking to build a career, in the global market, crypto or AI tech domain?
Well, I'm still considering myself the next generation, right? So I think we need to think big and start small, right? That's very, very important. You always need to have very bold idea, right? Big vision, bold vision. And then and it's because of the bold vision, the dream that carry you through the highs and the lows, right? But it's very important to start small, right? Because you can have all the great ideas. If you don't put into the work, you don't execute, you can't get there. And I think big probably take 10%, and starting small is probably 90%, and it's consistent. So I think the more we're on this journey building real crypto business, the more focused we are at every day, every hour, because the devil's in the details.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Michael. I think that's pretty much for today. And thank you for your insightful sharing.
Lovely, Bill. Very excited to be part of this, and hopefully we can build it up together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Well, that's all for today on Build It Up. We will be back next week with another inspiring guest. Subscribe now so you will never miss our amazing interviews. Until next time, this is Bill. Goodbye and take care.